I appreciate you taking the time today. This will take about a half an hour. I want to leave time for questions. Before we start, I just want to just give a little bit of background. I've met many of you, but my role at Club Benchmarking is to assist clubs in the process of getting their data in the system and making sure they're comfortable using it. I worked at clubs for many years, so I know some of the pains and difficulties that you folks encounter. And I've also had the privilege of doing about 300 online meetings with clubs to review their data and instruct them in the use of club benchmarking. So I have quite a bit of exposure to a variety of clubs. I've learned more in the last 2 years at club benchmarking than I had in the prior, I won't say out loud how long in clubs, but I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I certainly appreciate you taking the time today. We're going to focus on the budget process and the use of club benchmarking, obviously. So at clubs, previously, most clubs have a very well-defined budget process. And most of the information that you use in the budget process is comparisons to prior years, or you may use some surveys that are published. The Club Managers Association publishes a very good survey, we know, because we help write it, but also the PKF type information and the McGladrey and the Condon O'Meara numbers can all be very helpful in the process of budgeting. What I think that club benchmarking affords you is an opportunity to look at your club in the context of the industry. We're going to look at some sample data today, and in fact I'm going to run the available cash report, and we're going to look at that kind of in a step-by-step way as an overview, but the point of that process is to suggest a way to use the information as an additional tool in your budgeting. So what you can do with, and by the way, let me step back. I'm sorry, I raced ahead. I'm in the website. I went to the Finance and Operations section. We have a Reports tab that many of you are familiar with and may have seen. And I have some sample data in here, and I'm going to set two filters. And we have, for this club, maybe if I clicked properly, we would make some progress, right? So this club revenue is just over $12 million. I picked the revenue range that puts their club above the median, the sample set, and they have golf. So, and we're going to look at this data against 62 clubs. The point of this really is, and what I would suggest to you in your process is, take a look at your club using the available cash model report and look at it in the context of the industry. The medians and the averages illustrate how clubs operate and how they get the money they use to run their club and how they use it in the operation of the club. And clubs vary from the medians and the averages based on the individual kind of orientation of the club. Ray Cronin and Russ Condy, our founders, often say that the way your club varies from the medians and the averages really tells the story of the club. And in fact, I think that is the key thing to bear in mind when you use club benchmarking in the budgeting process. So every club is different. No two clubs are the same. And they vary in their kind of their orientation and their culture, and certainly in their membership makeup. But virtually every club operates around the financial model that we use to analyze clubs, which is the available cash and key performance, the available cash model, pardon me. I'd like to take a very quick look at this overview to illustrate what I mean about the differences, the way this club in particular, this club's numbers vary from the medians and the averages, and suggest that in the ways that they do indicates areas that may warrant further exploration and really consideration. When you set the revenue ranges for this report at the median, you can go through and look at how other measures vary from the median. And this, again, tells the story of your club. So the first thing we observe is this club's revenue is at the median of the sample that we're looking at. There are about 66 clubs that we're comparing against. Their capital income, however, is at the lower end of the scale. 2/3 of the clubs generate more capital income. So that begins to tell the story of the club and begins to indicate areas that we should keep in mind to explore as we go forward. When we go from the revenue to the available cash, and the available cash equation is right here on the chart, 100% of member dues plus or minus the F&B net plus the golf ops net if you're a golf club, non-golf revenue, and other revenue. And we see this club has $7.2 million in available cash. They're in the 18th percentile. So this is beginning to say that this club is a very active club, multi-offering, and probably has a very large food and beverage component. And we've discussed at length that food and beverage generates a lot of activity at clubs, but it doesn't generate money that can be used to make decisions at the club about whether to have additional offerings in the exercise, the group exercise, or do additional agronomic practices on the golf course. Really, this is the amount of resource the club has available to make those kind of decisions. And I think the point is that one important point is that this is not a good or a bad thing. You're starting to see the story of this club in the numbers, and that is to say they're very busy, and a lot of the revenue is committed revenue, so to speak. Thinking of this as something analogous to gross margin. However, when we go to the net available cash, they're like most other clubs in that the dues are set to break even. So, this is the percentage of available cash to operating. It's usually 60 cents on the dollar. As I said a few minutes ago, this club has a lot of activity, but a lot of the revenue is committed to expense. The dues percentage of revenue is a little bit lighter. The point of these observations are, by looking at the way the club varies from these averages and medians, it starts to point out the areas that you can have conversations at the club about the process of budgeting. One of our managers says he uses the charts and thinks of these as the goalposts. So from the 25th to 75th percentile is kind of the range that most clubs operate around. Obviously, half the clubs operate around it. And when he sees one measure fall from one side to the other, he asks a series of questions, which I think are very important questions using club benchmarking in the budgeting process. And those first are, is it a surprise? And it may be, because this may be the first time that you see your numbers in the context of the industry. The second is, if it's not a surprise, is it an active decision? So we can see here in the sources of available cash for this club gets about the same, a little bit more in dues than the average. They get quite a bit more from the non-golf activity and quite a bit less from the golf activity. So what we're seeing is that this club is oriented more toward non-golf activity than some other clubs. And when we go to the uses, that's borne out. So when we see, for this club in particular, we see that the variations from the averages of clubs of similar size really are primarily in the buildings and maintenance operation. But aside from the specific of this club, what this allows you to do by looking at these proportions is identify areas to consider further. So one thing we would do here is we can shift from the report to the database and go to the Compare Clubs section and look on a line-by-line basis under the clubhouse buildings and guest rooms and really start to understand how does this club behave differently from other clubs that are the same size, and in fact, should we continue to devote the resource in this area? So we can see overall they spend more than 87% of the clubs. And by the way, these charts, you can get to these charts by clicking on this little icon next to each measure. You can save them one at a time to PDF or PowerPoint, and then you can click through and you can see that this club spends quite a bit more in housekeeping and maintenance than other clubs, and also for their payroll taxes. And go line by line and see what the variations are from the medians of other clubs about the same size. In this way, you can start to explore who are the people that make up the clubhouse maintenance in housekeeping, the payroll number, and understand what the requirements are that cause the club to be spending at that level in this area. And again, it's likely that it's a characteristic of this club based on what the report numbers show. It's a very active, multi-offering club that requires expenditure in the clubhouse and buildings to support that activity, and therefore it's natural that the club would devote that resource in that area. So I think that the process that is most effective in the use of the club benchmarking for the budgeting tool is first, again, to look at the club using the reports, in particular the available cash and key performance indicator report. Set filters so that they're around the revenue range of your club and include golf or not. The city clubs would set a revenue range. They may say any club as far as golf is concerned, but down in the club type, pick city clubs. Likewise, for yacht clubs, and look at the clubs in the database relative to your numbers and understand where the variations are in your club operation from the medians and the averages. So it's really, first, get an overview of the club and understand how your operation is different. Second, explore those differences, and you can do that in detail by using Compare Clubs. And third, really begin to have a conversation at the club in the budget process that says, is this the right thing for us to do, invest in this area of the club that we're investing in, or should we invest more in this area of the club than we have? And if we need to make changes, what are the changes going to be? It's very consistent that clubs use their available cash in certain proportions. Almost always, half of available cash is used for overhead and half of it is used for activity. And again, the ways that your club varies from that allow you to really explore the differences and understand if you need to make changes. I highly recommend when you run reports to look at, after you've looked at the available cash report, to look at the variety of reports that we have available to you in the various areas. And by all means, when you are setting filters, use different filter sets for the different reports. So for example, with this club, just as a illustration, this club has $5 million in food and beverage revenue. When you take a look at this operation in the food and beverage, if you wanted to run the food and beverage report and look at that aspect of the operation, then I would recommend that you set filters around the food and beverage revenue as opposed to the total revenue of the club. And it's very simple to set the filters if you haven't before. You can use slides or you can type it in. And so now we're looking at clubs that are about the same scale of this operation, and we can take a look at the food and beverage report. I won't go through it step by step, but again, it generates a PowerPoint file that you can take a look at each chart individually and understand how this club's operation varies from clubs of a similar size. So I guess I would like to ask if there are any questions at this point. Hearing.
So as I mentioned, you can either click on the little green microphone to unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat box if you have a question.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Jim. Bill Schonk. Is there? I use the filter quite a bit, and it's wonderful. Is there? And I know you all can set up specific peer cluster groups.
Sure.
Or as Ray would say, peer cluster groups. Is there a way yet that we can do that independently by looking at a list of clubs, not knowing the specific numbers of each club, but by being able to just select specific clubs that we want to create a peer cluster, or we still have to do that through you setting that up?
Yeah, we have not made that change. I'm not sure that I'm not sure if that's planned. We do ask that you send us a list of clubs that you'd like to compare against, and we'll work that up for you.
Is there anywhere we can see because there's people coming on all the time?
Yep.
Who's because I always use the Great Clubs of the South peer
Sure.
cluster, but there's more and more locally in our area here. Is there a list there on the website that shows everybody that's utilizing club benchmarking?
Yeah, so the list that we have is on the main page of club benchmarking. It's at the bottom, and when you pop it, it shows the clubs that are members.
Oh, great.
And obviously this is a large portion of the data that's in the database, but you should mention that the clubs that participate in the CMAA survey but are not members of club benchmarking, the data is in there as well. So it may be the case that you would like to compare against some clubs that aren't on this list. And if you, like I said, if you email us and ask for those names, we can look in the database and see if they've entered their information, and we can include it in that peer cluster as well. I mean, the good thing is right now
Jim, is there a minimum?
Yeah, the minimum I think is 8.
Minimum number?
Yeah, I think the minimum is 8. So it has to be 8 or more clubs. Obviously, part of what we're doing in the first place, you need some level of critical mass, and usually in general filtering, 12.5 or more clubs gives you very good background data. When you get specific on the named clubs, we want to be careful to protect the confidentiality of the data.
Sure.
So we want to be very careful not to get it down to like 2 clubs, for example. But we have just under 500 member clubs now, and we have, I think, 750 or 800 clubs data in the database for 2013. So this list represents most of the clubs data, but there is, fully another, I don't know, probably 40% of the database, 30% of the database that's non-members. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well,
As
Go
As a
ahead.
reminder, we have a pretty robust member support page and direct contact information for Jim if you go to clubbenchmarking.com/support.
Yes, and also if you're logged in, at the top of the page there's a link for support, and it pops a separate tab. And I just, very quick overview, for those who haven't had a GoToMeeting, I certainly would love to walk through your data with you. You can click private session and pick a time and day, and I'll show up and we can look through your data. For those who I have had a GoToMeeting with, I'm sure I've emphasized the fact that if it's been a period of time since you've used the tool or you have specific questions, by all means you can pick a time and day and we can review those for you. Our objective is absolutely for you to be using this tool in your decision-making process. So we'll do everything we can to really support you in your understanding of the tool and the way to use it. And I also want to very quickly mention we have a video library. This recording will be put up so you can refer back to it. Yesterday there was a session about course maintenance spending. In these videos are about half an hour long each, but we also will go through a process of developing videos that are more like 2 or 3 minutes long that really are quick hits on how do I get from here to there on your site and those kind of things. So there is quite a bit of resource here. By all means, please make use of it. And also, when you have a question, please don't hesitate to call or email.
Jim, can you go to your member support tab there?
Yep.
And instead of support, can you type checklist?
Sure.
So as Director of Communications, I spend my days toying with ways to make this easier for you to use and make sure that you're getting the most out of your account. And so if you go to clubbenchmarking.com/checklist, there's just a quick little set of reminders about what you need to do once a year to make sure that you're getting as much out of it as possible. And I will send a follow-up email with a recording of this session so you can watch it again or share it. And I'll put a link to that reminder to that checklist page in there.
And so I just, I'd like to conclude, first I'd like to thank you all, not only for spending the time today, but also for being members. I love what I do, and being able to help you folks in the process of gathering facts so that you can make decisions based on facts is a lot of fun, frankly. And as far as the budgeting process is concerned, again, I think that this tool is just another piece in the process, and because it's a dynamic database and you can look at the club from a number of different perspectives in the industry by varying those filters and running the different reports, I encourage you to, spend some time, 20 minutes at a time, just run the different report, take a look at the filters from, use different filters, see what effect it has, because each time that you do change the filters around some aspect of your business, you will be able to see data and facts about that aspect of your business right on the screen and report out. And you can integrate it into your process of decision making and your budgeting and really add facts to some of the opinions, or I should say it differently, become aware of facts and know facts that existed, but you weren't necessarily able to see them before you had this tool. Again, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and please don't hesitate to contact us if there's any way that we can help you when you're using the tool, or explain it more completely to you. And with that, I hope everybody has a great weekend. I should say, any last questions?
I'm not seeing anything. Monique says
Okay.
thanks. Anthony says thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great day.